pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joanne, roll call, please.
Dr. Bloom.
Here.
Jennifer Coleman. Here. Aaron Shafir.
Here.
Jay Erickson. Here. Greg Bernard.
Here.
Mark Friedman.
Here.
Stephen Joe.
Yep.
All right, first item on the agenda is Trempson Wood Products, 84 Libby Lane, Pawling. Work session site plan. Mike Ligori is going to give us a presentation this evening.
Yeah, there's not much to present. So Trempson got our memo, which the board has seen. We tried to really do a comprehensive response, tracking the information that you guys requested in early October compared to what the letter from John Sarcone. So we prepared our letter. We delivered it November 25th. December 2nd was too soon for them to be able to respond to be on the agenda. So they've asked to be on the 16th. I know we have some plans for the 16th with Starkdale. So what I've asked Joanne to see if we could possibly start the planning board meeting at 6. That would give us the ability to do Trempson at 6 and then Starkdale at 7 and be out at a reasonable hour. Because we need to continue to process the application. So if they're going to submit, I'd like to have it on and move it forward.
Okay, well, I can be here at 6. Jay,
Yep, I can do it.
you could be here at 6. Doc?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mark?
Monday the 16th? Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen,
I
John?
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, Joanne, obviously.
Yeah,
Key player.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for Trempson. Second item is Elizabeth O'Rafferty, environmental permit. In front of you, you have the memo from Walter Artis, dated November 21st. Did everybody get a chance to read it, to go through it? Simple environmental permit.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions, concerns? Well, if someone could just make that motion.
I can make the motion that the board waives chapter 111, freshwater, wetlands, and watercourse protection sections as per 111-6E, 4C2 to 111-61, and 111-6A and 111-6C, public hearings, referrals to outside agencies, and performance bond as recommended by Mr. Artis. The board refers this environmental permit to the storm manager office for issuance of the environmental permit.
Okay, second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. Doc Bloom seconded that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Dylan and Regina Pignatelli, Old Route 22. Environmental permit. This was referred to us by Walter Artis and the building inspector. And good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mike Gillespie. I'm a consulting engineer. I've been doing this for about 30 years. My office is in East Fishkill, and for some reason, I've never been in front of this board for 30 years. So
Welcome.
Here's my one shot, right?
Yeah, one shot.
We're in front of the board tonight for an environmental permit, as mentioned. Pignatellis have purchased, they own a piece of property that exists along Old Route 22.
Just try to talk into the microphone if you
Okay.
can.
On Old Route 22, and this is a parcel that actually has the high school right behind it, just to orient yourselves and so forth. There are a couple of water courses that actually run through the property. We're certainly trying to stay away from those. The intent of the development is to install a home. It's always been their intent relative to the property, understanding now in terms of, the town of Pawling and their rules and regulations and so forth. we're in front of you with this environmental permit. We have had some dialogue with Walter Artis. There's been some letters that have floated back and forth. Somebody made a decision that we were okay to come before this board, which we appreciate, so we can at least have that discussion with you guys. Joan, do you put the thing up on the what's your boobsy? Okay, that's fine. That's why I brought this, but I would have brought my easel too. So, but I mean that effectively is.
Yeah, we all have electronic copies of that.
Okay.
That's been circulated as well.
Yeah, the development intent includes a very long driveway, about 950 foot long, that goes up to the top or the rear of this subject property. The property has some grades, there's no question about it. There's some significant slopes. We provided as part of our application measure a map that showed slopes maps over 25%. We're certainly going to be encroaching on those. And for the purposes of the grading that we showed here, we've actually shown 1 on 2 shoulders in order to get up there rather than 1 on 3, which is typical. We'll be, pursuing slope stabilization measures and things such as that. But again, we have been before the Board of Health. That was originally what I was retained to do. We actually do have Board of Health approval at this particular time. I think I included that documentation as part of the last submittal. So that's kind of a quick rundown.
Is that Board of Health approval with bringing material in or with on-site material?
Well, there's about a half a foot of fill that's got to go in the septic area, so ultimately that would have to be brought in. Yeah. The material on site wouldn't meet the requirements of the Board of Health, sand and gravel and so forth, so.
Approximately how long, was it say 980 feet, the driveway?
950, a little over 950.
And what's the steepest grade right now on the driveway plan?
We show 15%. Certainly, in reading the town code, we typically like to keep it around 10, maybe 12%. We are showing 15 because that's what we have to do to get up the hill and try to keep the grading to a minimum. I know that the applicant has had some discussions with Mr. Brill, highway superintendent here, right? And we've changed the plan over the course of submittals to show some turnoff areas and so forth to allow for not only snow removal and things such as that, but also, the fire department to allow for areas to pull over and so forth. So
The fire marshal come out and look at it? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those conversations have really been with Mr. and Mrs. Pignatelli. I've asked to see if we can get those in writing. I'm not, again, too familiar with this board in terms of when circulation occurs, if that formally occurs from out of this board to those to those local agencies. But
So yeah, what we can do tonight is we can refer you to work with our engineer, and you stay in contact and
okay,
work on the project, and he'll report back to us,
okay.
and then we'll have another.
You're the engineer?
Yep.
Mr. Gaynor?
Still got it.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I guess.
It's been a long time. I worked with you in some other towns, but we look a lot different than we used to back then.
So that's about as far as we'll take it tonight.
Okay.
And then once we get a memo from him. we'll
Okay,
have
so
it-
there's not been a review at this particular point yet?
Excuse me?
There hasn't been a review yet at this
No.
particular point?
It's just being referred tonight.
Okay, perfect. Again, procedurally, just trying to figure out
Right.
the right path.
One question that I have that's probably going to come up going forward has to do with some changes that were enacted in the state legislature this past fall about wetlands and how they're no longer going to just rely on the Army Corps engineer wetlands, and that vernal pools are going to have to be observed in the springtime to establish what is a wetland and what isn't. And this is an open-ended question for Ron and I guess Walter Artis, but what are we going to, what is our role in handling that new legislation? How is that going to be treated in this review?
That's a really interesting question, and that's definitely something for Walter to look.
Do you know anything about this, Ron?
Yeah, no, the,
Do you mind stepping up to the mic?
thank you, yeah. typically on larger projects, the board's going to make a site inspection, and you can often pick that up, even if it's not in the spring. Certainly in the spring, they're most evident. Smaller projects, I don't know that the board ever goes out, but certainly Walter has, and I will. And I'll try to identify those issues as well. If there's any areas of concern, they'll be flagged, and then it's a matter for the applicant to pursue that information further.
Okay, so the answer sounds like it's a site visit
Right.
and visual observation.
Right.
And it'd be the same as flagging any other wetland that's on the property, you would flag that.
Excuse me? Say again?
It would be the same as flagging the wetlands on the site as well.
Right, I mean, Walter has looked at that to date, and he's raised whatever concerns he's had with the intermittent stream, so I'll check in with him before I go out myself.
Answer your question?
Yeah, again, I don't think it just applies to this project.
No.
It may not apply to this project at all, but it's something that came to my attention, and I thought it was worthwhile
Is
asking
it
the question.
specifically limited to vernal pools, or is it
So
is it
basically-
intermittent streams also?
This is my understanding, and I might be wrong. The Army Corps engineers' maps for wetlands and the New York State maps for wetlands have dictated what is a wetland and what
Yeah.
can be built in and around them. They are doing away with all of that. They no longer are going to rely on those maps. What they're saying is you have to go out on every major project, and whether or not this is a major project or not has to be determined, and flag those vernal pools in a certain time of year. Every one of them has to be observed. And if there are vernal pools, that's a wetland, even if it wasn't on the Army Corps engineer map. It's a much more higher
It's a
standard.
major change.
It's a major change. And I'm not sure how it affects our work here. That's why I'm asking the question.
I don't think it does affect the work, because it would be the same as flagging any other wetland that's on the property. You're gonna try to identify any wetland that's on a property, which would include those additional things. So when you send a consultant out to do the flagging of a wetland, they're gonna look for the additional items that you're citing.
I'm not sure. I'm not
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not sure
that's-
that any wetland is flagged.
There's not the formality of flagging in small projects, so,
Right,
but
it
they're observed if they're evident.
On a major subdivision, you would flag wetlands.
You clearly
would
would,
flag
right,
vernal pools,
right.
you would- Right, so you would identify them based on the three criterias that
Right.
are what are wetland.
Okay, so that sounds to me like you're saying there's no change in the process.
Right,
Yeah, I'm getting different information.
okay.
Mike, are you
Mike?
familiar with?
Yeah, I'll just add to that quickly. So there's two really significant revisions. One is the reduction in size for jurisdiction from 12.4 acres down to 7 acres. That's the first major revision that's proposed. So typically, before the DEC regulates a wetland, it has to be a certain size. That certain size presently today is 12.4. Anything under 12.4 is regulated by the local municipality if they regulate wetlands. Some towns don't have wetland ordinances. Dover is one of them. Pawling has a wetland ordinance. So in Dover, if you have a property and you're part of a DEC wetland system, then you have to get a wetland permit if you engage in any activity that's regulated. So that the reduction from 12.4 to approximately 7, that's the first proposed major revision. The second one is wetlands that are smaller than 7 that have high significance, and there are criteria that set forth what makes a smaller wetland have high significance. And I think this is where you're touching on, is how do you determine that? Do you have to go physically monitor it? At what time of the year do you do that? And I think those are the things
I'm
that.
specifically talking about vernal pools.
Well, vernal pools
those are
would
the-
qualify as
Yeah.
having high significance.
Okay.
So how does that correlate to a regular person's application in the town of Pawling? So someone comes in with a site plan application, they're obligated to show any wetlands on the property, any vernal pools that are on the property. And if those, right now, I haven't heard the part about ditching the DEC wetland mapper, because the mapper is actually pretty good,
No, I agree.
but it may require a landowner, as part of the application process, to hire a wetland consultant, flag all this, and then proceed. And I think we've picked up the vernal pools, over time. I don't think we've missed one on a site plan application in front of us. But now it's going to be, more prominent that, if there's an application that's pending, one of the boxes you're going to have to check is, did your wetland consultant, have they certified that these don't exist on the property, or now do they exist on the property? And then we'll tackle that criteria, which I think is intended to come into effect in 2028.
So none of this is relevant until then?
Well, right now they've circulated these draft regulations. The comment period has expired. I don't believe they've officially been adopted. They could have been in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. I was told they were adopted in the fall.
Okay, but then maybe then it happened like the first or the second week in November. Usually we get all these alerts from, let's say, the DEC if you're signed up as a subscriber, or usually it's some other law firm touting their expertise in the area and, hey, come hire us. But usually, as far as municipal attorneys, we're usually linked into the municipal section of the Bar Association, which sends a blast, alert to everybody, hey, a new regulation's been adopted, you should know about this. So I didn't see it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No, yeah,
But-
and I got it from another zoning attorney. I had this conversation with another land use attorney.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and so I think that's what we're going to see, happening for us is, we might amend our application procedures and to require this, but whatever it is, we'll deal with it.
do we know how big the water courses are? Project?
No, I don't in particular. It hasn't reached essentially my desk yet. There really isn't anything for me to review just yet on this one.
Yeah.
So as it progresses, it will.
Well, that should count for a training credit. What do you think? Right?
I was thinking maybe we should have a like a training session, a work session when we have a light agenda.
That's
to-
a good idea.
To get into this, because it's not clear. And we have, I'm looking at the code right now, we have our own definition of wetlands, which is separate from DEC. We say if it's greater than a quarter acre, and it's not DEC regulated, and it meets a bunch of this other criteria, we, as a town, consider it wetlands.
Yeah, local jurisdiction.
So, and I think it would be good to do an hour on this with someone to school us a little more on the details here. But I think this one, I doubt there's any vernal pools, but we'll find out. Okay.
Yeah, Walt would have flagged if there was if Walt did a site inspection, he would
But
tell
you
you.
have to do it in the spring.
You have to do it in the spring though, and that's the law. And that's why this is so
Well,
challenging, is
yeah,
because
well-
basically everyone's gonna say, wait, I gotta wait 9 months?
Yeah,
Well, it's like cutting and avoiding the Indiana bat. It's the same,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can't
So-
cut trees between May and.
I mean, it's been
Right.
dry, it's been historically dry, so you're not gonna observe a vernal pool in November or December.
Nope, that's for sure.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, you know what I was going to say, Mark, is, but what Walt could tell you is whether or not there's habitat that would support a vernal pool. That's part of,
Yeah, and I just want to make clear that these questions are general questions that were jogged by this project and may not be relevant to
right.
this project.
No, understood. It just made me think, my last statement made me think of situations where there's, everyone's concerned about bog turtles, but then an environmental professional goes out there and says, yeah, we usually look in the spring or the fall, but if there's no habitat that could ever support a bog turtle, then this is an area that has them. So it'd be applicable, or a similar corollary for a vernal pool.
Just as a quickie, the information, the town attorney? Yeah. Is complementary to what I've heard, although I've heard it's gonna be a little closer, not 2027, or, so it seems like it's coming down the path. When we actually went ahead and prepared this, one of the things that they also looked at was, which everybody uses as a guide, is, you know, the New York State DEC mapper, as well as even the town, or the Dutchess County Parcel Access Program kind of tells you where it is. And again, it's used as a generality to see whatever pops up. I mean, there are some that are off the site across the road, but at least for this water course, and again, understanding it's only used as a guide, did not show up for this particular water courses on this site, so. But, you know, we'll deal with that as we trudge further, I guess.
It seems like this project, the biggest issue is going to be the steepness of the drive, and is there a way to, you know, mitigate that at all? I know you've been through some iterations and probably have done some changes.
Yeah.
And then I would say also taking a very close look with stormwater. I don't think our stormwater has really caught up with what's happening. And, you know, we got 8 inches of rain 2 summers ago. It was pretty
Yeah.
devastating. Asheville gets 30 inches of rain. What happens? So we want to be very aware of what happens, and that's
Yeah,
a situation like that.
I think as we proceed with this, there's going to certainly be some phasing to make sure that it's done in the proper phase in the right way. And Walter had already indicated that we're going to get into some stormwater stuff, so I presume that's coming down the line. All right.
Anybody else have any questions? Can someone make that referral?
I'll make the motion. Move to appoint Ron Gaynor as engineer to the Pignatelli Environmental Permit Project and allow the applicant's engineer to work with Mr. Gaynor, subject to the planning board and its office being kept informed of all correspondence and phone calls from the applicant and engineer.
All right, motion by Stephen, a second. Second by Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried.
Great.
All right, do we need any more paperwork from this gentleman, or do we have everything we need?
And,
I gave everything to Ron tonight.
Okay.
So,
and you got the check?
yes.
Okay.
I got the check to the escrow.
Okay, good.
All
Okay,
right, free to go.
great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
New business. The traffic and safety pedestrian letter that Doc drafted single-handedly.
Good job, Doc.
That's right. Yeah.
Sure, Jay.
Teamwork.
I like it, but I also liked Ron's comment. Did everybody see Ron's comment about the runabout, the roundabout?
Yeah,
I always thought the roundabout would work. It would also slow down traffic. I think I'd like to incorporate it into that letter. Doc, if you can do that for me.
Yeah, okay.
I would
I'll
say,
talk to my assistant.
not to disagree with our engineer, but that you're coming over a crest of a hill and heading downhill, and you're coming off of 55 on the ramp, and the end of the acceleration ramp is actually pretty close to where you would start the roundabout. So the distances for slowing down to be able to make the roundabout, I would see as a problem, but that, if it's going to be studied, let them study it.
Right.
In my
That's-
estimation,
yeah.
So we have a
that
sentence.
roundabout would be way too close to.
Yeah,
to the
you might
crest.
be right, but
Yeah.
let's let them,
Yeah.
let's just plant the seed. So
Yeah.
we list things, we help evaluate potential improvements such as speed control measures, traffic lights, pedestrian-friendly pathways, and potential for agreements. I would just add speed
And a
control measures,
possible roundabout.
comma, traffic lights, comma, roundabout,
Mhm.
comma, pedestrian. So just insert after traffic lights, roundabout. Does
Yeah,
that plant the seed for?
yeah, I think that'll work.
And just thinking about that issue along that portion of the 22 corridor, if you put it at the entrance to Castagna, you might also consider just making, or closing off the median at Fenwood, and just use the roundabout.
Right,
And
you wouldn't need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
a tree there.
that all
Put a
needs to
tree
be studied, that's all.
Problem solved. That's a great idea.
One location or the other would work.
Yeah.
All right, so
That should have had it from the beginning.
yeah.
we just make a motion to accept the letter with the changes.
I'll make a motion to accept Doc Bloom's letter with the changes.
Second.
Second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay,
Jay.
good job, Doc.
Good job.
It makes the dream work.
Always pick the
I
right
have a
person.
ghostwriter. There's no problem.
Well,
It
you were
is a very-
passionate about the idea, Doc, and for that there, you get a star for that. See? You pushed us, and now there's a letter. Jay
Yep.
took it on.
That's it.
All right, the other thing in new business is the planning firm for Starkdale Park. Jen and Jay interviewed a lot of four, two firms had a conflict of interest. One was the firm that's currently working with Dover, and the other one is the one that you recommended, Doc, CPL with Liz Axelson.
They pulled out?
They had a conflict of interest.
All right.
Jen, you prepared something?
Yeah, just a short. So we interviewed 4 planners, so DTS Providence, Hardesty Hanover, SLR Engineering, and NPV. And after the 4 presentations, we selected SLR. They're local, they have a lot of local experience, but they're able to scale, but we felt that they're not too big to be able to really stay close to the issues of the community and understand where we're coming from and really dig in. They had a very collaborative, proactive approach. They had done seen a lot of these applications on both sides, so they've been on both sides of the equation, which is great. And we just the conversation flowed really well. They understood the project. They'd done their homework. We just feel really good about their approach.
All right.
Good.
Anybody have any objections, or Mark, Greg, how do you just?
Where are they based? Where's their their Dutchess County?
They're Dutchess County, so they're local, but they had the opportunity, like the ability to scale, because we did interview some that weren't so local, so
I
it was
think you
great.
have
They
it,
all-
right?
Yeah.
You have it in front of you.
Yeah, here,
Last couple pages might be where it's from.
yeah.
Have a conversation.
SLR.
So you good, Mark?
Good.
No curveball? Or if we get a motion to accept SLR as the planning firm for us to hire?
I make a motion to accept SLR as a planning firm.
Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mark. Any discussion? I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seeing no discussion. All right, so that's it for me for new business. Anybody else have anything they want to discuss? No? We can adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right.
Starts at 6.